right, I'm not seeing any complaining from any of the platforms. Let's get going here. All right, so listen. All right. Getting ready to go. Oh, wait, no. Hold on. Beverage malfunction. Please hold while I prepare my beverage. All right. Pouring. Get my editing studio nice and close to me in case I need to jump in there. Okay, take these glasses off because I might not need them. All right, here we go. Hello, and welcome to the Technocrat Live. I'm your host, Matthew Newhall, and today is a very special episode. I have a whole bunch of new stuff going on, and among them, I have myself a teleprompter. We're going to see how this goes, but hopefully the idea being that I don't have to constantly go to the paper and move it. Now, this could go bad or this could go good, but we'll see. Thanks so much for tuning in. This is episode TTL200, which is a very special episode. No, it's not. It's just another number. But I am glad I made it all the way to 200, and thanks for being part of it. Today, there's no interview. Sometimes I do interviews on the show, but today is just Dystopia Report. Yes, because, well, you know, that's how it goes. And the topic for today is tech government. Hold on a second. I'm going to take a sip because I got the teleprompter going real slow, but I like that. Okay, so it looks like there's a court order from a United States court to tell ByteDance that they have to separate from TikTok. So this is the tech government section, in case I missed that. Anyway, I'm new to the teleprompter, people. I'm working on it. Work with me here. And by the way, don't be afraid to leave comments. I am going to definitely check the chats for Odyssey and YouTube. I don't know if I'm going to be able to see anything else. Honestly, I'm sorry about that. I do feel bad. Anyway, so let's see. Oh, I missed something. See, this is interesting. So it looks like they're going to have no choice but to shut down the Web 2 app completely. The court is essentially saying that TikTok is being used to spy on users, and I got to tell you, you know, this is, in my experience, this is absolutely true. Both because their legal terms indemnify them for any data collection on your system, which is bonkers and not like other platforms, but you know, usually a phone, but whatever. But the thing that's in my experience crazy about the TikTok app is that when you I've had it run away on my phone. Like, my phone will get real hot and it's churning away in the background, and the only thing I can do to stop it is to go into the operating system, in this case Android, and force it to stop. So the fact that they indemnify themselves from collecting any information they feel like, and the app goes crazy in the background. Now, that said, I do know some people who have become wildly viral in TikTok, and I've actually found the experience of putting up something that a lot of people like and reaching a lot of new people really good on that platform, unlike maybe some other platforms. Although I will say my experience in X is turning out pretty good too. Yeah, but thrashing your phone and your CPU ain't great, you know, when it's not loaded. It makes me very suspicious that the government is correct. And of course, nothing really happens in China without permission from its government. So unless you have a situation where something's open source and it's fully transparent, yeah, can you trust them? I mean, can you trust any government? But especially when it's not your own, right? Yeah, and they're pretty hostile to their own citizens. Probably means they're not going to care about you at all. Anyway, but of course, ByteDance isn't part of the Chinese government, but every major company there answers to them, which is one of the problems with sourcing chips and chipsets from Chinese companies as well. So this is kind of a terrible precedent. I don't really, you know, like, lots of terrible things are happening to technocrats. So on that, to non-technocrats. So on that note, I'm really happy for people. that they're going to be, that the government's actually kind of keeping them safe. But yeah, but on the other hand, there's lots of companies making people unsafe, so that doesn't, ByteDance isn't that much worse than a lot of them. There's a lot of behaviors that are getting a blind eye because they're not coming from China. So I'm kind of on the fence about this one. It's a really good, useful app. It can be socially disruptive, which is awesome, but also, not so good, because the app is misbehaving. All right, did you know that Pornhub is currently blocked in 7 states? Yeah, check this out. This is crazy. So Texas, North Carolina, Montana, Mississippi, Virginia, Arkansas, and Utah all require age viewer verification. In other words, they have age viewer verification laws. And apparently, the reaction from Pornhub is to just say, okay, we're not going to serve any data to those states. And as apparently this is viewed as a success to 5 new states that are now talking about, that have pending age verification laws, which Pornhub basically says they want their users to be able to be anonymous so they can't be blackmailed, and which is honorable. I mean, this is exactly what people would get blackmailed with. So they're right. So those are Indiana, Idaho, Kansas, Kentucky, and Nebraska. Yeah, really not thrilled with the fact that these states are talking about essentially shutting down Pornhub as well. Now, you might be like, okay, well, I don't want my kids looking at porn. Fine, fair enough. But are the parents at the lunch? I mean, this is the problem with having not only not technocrats, but platforms that don't give technocrats a louder voice in the technocracy, because we need to be able to guide people. And one of the things, sure, the parents could just tell their kids no, but let's be realistic. That's not that easy. But what we could tell parents, or what we could tell these states, instead of passing these, well, you have to age verification, which in turn compromises your identity, why don't you subsidize one of the many, many services that are available in every state, because every state needs them for their public schools, firewalls that are specifically oriented towards kids that block pornography sites. There are a ton of companies all over the United States, sometimes mom and pop shops, that are really successful at this. Why not subsidize firewalls to these states for any household with young children? And then the adults don't have to act like children on a daily basis because some other parents don't know how to tell their kids no. I mean, why not default to freedom first, right? This isn't like fighting for the rights of porn, because one of the things that people in the tech industry know, TTP, is that however goes illicit images, video, audio, and information, so goes the rest of the internet. So goes the rest of the tech world. TTP stands for time to penis, right? That's how a free platform, a free ubiquitous platform will get people drawing penises very quickly. And I'm not just saying that. I'm not just saying this for the shock value of saying that word. This is a canary in the coal mine for freedom to say things that maybe the government doesn't approve of. Once you set up the pipeline to censor, and this is exactly what Pornhub is. It's not going to stop bad companies. Pornhub is an American company with American offices and liability in America, and you can regulate them, but if you force them out of a market, people are still going to go on the internet and they're still going to find porn, but now they're going to be finding it in a foreign country that we have no effect on, and you're going to end up having to firewall them off anyway. Think about that. So the only solution is to use one of these firewall service companies. It's the only solution, and parents would know this if the Web 2 platforms weren't blocking technocrats from reaching ordinary people, because the technocrats are the only ones who can can help with the Republic. All right, enough with that. On to the AI section. So DeepSeek OpenAI version 2 claims to be performing better than GPT-4 Turbo. So they're saying that they're getting more human-like results than GPT-4 Turbo. So the thing that's really interesting, a lot of people are focusing on the fact that this is a Chinese company that's the primary developers on this. But I say primary developers because it's open source. The source code is available for DeepSeek under an MIT license. So people are kind of trashing it, but it's like, dude, it's open source. Just look at the code. If you don't like it, fork it. It's an MIT license. So I'm not really sure what the motives are there, but really awesome. So what can you do with an open source AI program? I mean, cutting edge AI that it's open source. You can simply just remove the artificial conscience that every company is forced to put in there to make sure you behave. You can do anything you want. And this is so all the promise of AI, all the good, all the bad, all the marginal, you can do it with this. If this is anywhere near, if DeepSeek is anywhere near its claims, yeah, this is going to be awesome. It's interesting. This came up on VentureBeat, even though it's open source, because I don't know, I guess people are going to, people are still in AI mania mode. Okay, onward. So Lawrence Lessig, who is an open source advocate and a lawyer who is pretty knowledgeable about open source topics. I don't always agree with him politically. I'm just going to say that. He comes off... The thing, I don't have a problem with anybody's politics. I have a problem when people present politics as if they're objective information, and he does that. And he actually does that in the beginning of this TED Talk. That said, it's a 20-minute TED Talk, and I would strongly recommend watching it anyway. And here's why. Because he discusses the idea that both democracies and subsequently corporations are an ascending pyramid of AIs. And what he means by that is he's saying that government and corporations are AIs. And you'd be like, well, they're not AIs. They're not a program. Well, they kind of are, actually, if you look at it from like a game theory kind of point of view, right? A lot of early video games are just like board games that were translated into the basic rules for the video games. That happened a lot. So, and of course, then there's a lot more things that are possible. But basically what he's saying is that government and corporations are analog AIs. And I think he's right. That's a good way to look at it because it kind of frames things. So you got people at the bottom of the pyramid, and then you got government, which is like a more organized form of people working together. And then governments created corporations, and corporations, in a way, are ways to narrow down on even more specific goals. And kind of like, and the problem with this hierarchical view, which is accurate to what's really happening, is, the people want to control the government, and the government wants to control the corporations. But what's actually happening in real life is it's kind of the other way around. The corporations are really controlling the government. This is a good PAC money. And the government is really controlling the people. Look at every law that's passed and enforced is enforced at gunpoint. Nobody's going to argue with the government without any support from the other citizens. So, yeah, it's kind of in charge. Well, what happens when you extend this pyramid up to the next level, past corporations, which is more specific but yet more efficient, AI? So companies are creating, every company's adopted AI, and they think it's making them more efficient, but it's also kind of putting them in a position where the AIs are actually in charge of them, which is kind of terrifying because AIs have already done some pretty weird and not entirely understood things. Creating culture feedback loops where people like to argue in a way that's non-productive because it keeps them engaged. So, like an example of a machine learning or AI algorithm would be something to keep people engaged. And when they're engaged, they're entirely focused on making money for the company because they're giving their eyeballs, as they say in the tech industry. So, Yeah, I really think it's worth your time. It's quite excellent. He does make a few mistakes in it. One thing I would say is he's kind of acting as if AI is having a new influence now. Right now, like 2020 is around when it really started changing society. I don't think that's the case at all. Clearly, YouTube and a couple of the other Web 2 companies like Facebook, which was directly squared off with MySpace back then, and maybe a couple of others were using machine learning already to try to optimize what they showed people to keep them hooked, to create a more addictive interface. So this is not, that was the job that AI was doing. It wasn't very good at it compared to now, but it was doing it. So no, I think I actually disagree with him about that, the timing. He had a suggestion for a correction, and his correction was having people meet in person, more consortiums where people just meet and talk and interface and interact and try to come to a consensus as to what to do next. Human beings are accuracy optimized for meeting in person. Our voices, our hearing, our eyes, our touch, our sense of smell are all optimized to read people when they're around us, to see if they're being honest, to see if they're being sincere, to see if they're enthusiastic. It's an easy, cheap way to verify people are who you think they are. Usually people are a little more polite in person because nobody wants to get into a fist fight. Yeah, he's right. He's absolutely right. We are accurately optimized for that. And also I would say, stop automating government. We are, every time you automate government, that's technology, and technology needs technology security, and we're terrible at that. I mean, technology is constantly having 0-a-day attacks, like when a government organization takes stuff that used to be papers in a file cabinet and they put it on a server, and they don't have a group of complete pros actively doing everything they can to block off that server, cordon off that server to anything except exactly what it needs to do. Sooner or later, a 0-day attack comes, and then we get stuff like the Office of Personnel Management, which was everybody who was ever involved in any kind of classified work, even as a recommendation, got leaked. I mean, this is the kind of thing that happens. So pretending like, things like elections are one of my personal pet peeves are safe just because some company says it's safe, it's not. We need paper records of everything as it happens, because otherwise you can just delete or alter records at the speed of light everywhere simultaneously. That is not a security model. You need fire breaks. Okay, everybody in the IT industry who works as an IT professional knows that. All the technocrats know that. So we need those two. I like a suggestion, but also I would say stop automating so fast. Take it slow. Run simultaneous systems. Government doesn't need to do everything. That's one of the reasons we automate so much, because we try to make it do too much. Okay, enough about that. Go check out his talk. It's worth your time. It's worth the 20 minutes. Google image SEO apparently is being flooded with fake images. In other words, AI-generated images of celebrities. This is definitely happening. Sometimes I see stories like this, and I'm not impressed, and I just kind of like, whatever. But I looked at Google, and it is absolutely happening. I looked up a few famous names, and just the word swimsuit, and some of the images that come up are not only fake, but they're aged wrong. They're doing things that the person wouldn't do. Celebrities have got a real problem managing, like one of the reasons that copyright isn't compulsorily licensed is because the argument is made that marketing is part of the copyright industry, and the marketing specifically of protecting the image of people who have copyright products and protecting those works. Well, I mean, they just can't keep up. I mean, there was an article, this article went out on 404, and it looks like Google tried to clean it up a little bit, but you just scroll down to the next page, and it's right there. They haven't gotten rid of it. So the SEO is still being effective. Anyway, check it out. Look up your favorite celebrity in swimsuit, and I'll buy you a chocolate if you can't find at least one image that isn't AI generated, and definitely not them. All right, that is it for the AI section. Let's get on to tech. So it looks like France had to shut down some nuclear reactors. Wait, don't get excited. You might be like, I knew it, nuclear sucks. Well, old nuclear sucks. Type 1 reactors suck. Type 4 reactors really don't. I mean, they could. I guess you could screw it up. There's always a Homer Simpson out there. But no, that's not why they had to shut down these reactors. They actually were over-generating electricity in France due to a successful rollout of lots of solar and wind power. And, of course, the advantage to actual power plants, like a nuclear power plant, is they can shut them off. It dipped so supply went so far over demand, the prices actually turned negative. So, I'm kind of interested. This is, as we get into a labor glut because of AI, I'm very interested in ways to give back to people. And almost everybody uses energy in a fairly market activity coherent way. It might not be necessarily a bad idea to let prices go negative and let the government pick up the tab, kind of as a way to pay back people for having paid taxes into a system that helps subsidize those power plants. Anyway, something to think about. If you want a behavior, reward it, right? Don't just punish all the time. Actually, do give positive incentives. I'm not saying they should bankrupt themselves, but a few cents, the psychological effect of giving people back a few cents for the days that there's extra power is amazing. And it's a great news story, too. So, also, this is on Fortune.com. Check it out. I just thought it was a really positive, kind of feel-good story. This is like the second or third story since I've started doing shows again where there's I think California was one of them, too, where there was a wildly successful case of alternative green energy power generation succeeding. So really glad to see that. Looks like there's a company that can't. So this is New York Times. Looks like there's a company that can't settle a copyright. So it can't settle a privacy lawsuit. Although really, I would say maybe it's a copyright lawsuit. But of course, guess what kind of is it? Clearview AI facial recognition? Yeah, I believe that's the name of the company. Sorry, I had to go look it up at the URL because I screwed up and didn't put the name in. Anyway, so it looks like Clearview leaked biometrics. So, I mean, of course, never share your biometrics unless you're 100% positive. Unless you want to use leaking your data and violating your own privacy as a business model, and it's kind of an interesting case because everything you do, every motion you make, all that data that these companies collect is copyrighted, and I would even argue that, while your face isn't copyrighted, how your face is moving and recording your face moving or recording you in different poses is copyrighted, just like a photo would be. So, you could, a lot of the arguments you can make about privacy, you can also make about ordinary people's copyright. And I'm going to be doing a talk. If this is an interesting angle, I have some really crazy, a really crazy thought experiment I'm going to share with you in a 10-minute talk one of these days really soon. So watch out for that on all these channels. But anyway, so yeah, it looks like they owe they only have a $225 million market cap, this company, Clearview, and they literally, the lawsuit settlement is larger than their market cap. So, okay, what do you think is going to happen? They're going to go bankrupt, right? No, they're not actually going to go bankrupt. They are going to give shares in their company out. What an interesting situation they created. And it's weird. I mean, like, do you really want shares in their company? I mean, they kind of screwed up and let your face get hacked. On the other hand, is giving data to insecure companies a business model? I mean, if if they can't keep the lid on and you can successfully sue them, yeah. And there's a lot of companies with a lot of data out there. This is getting crazier and crazier, and AI is actually making it worse. But we'll get more into that in my 10-minute talk. Stay tuned for that. Okay, so here's the big story. It's actually in the tech section. It's not in the science section. So, news of the century. Hold on, sip. Feel that pregnant pause. You ready for it? TDK apparently has developed a material, a battery material that is they're claiming 100 times higher energy density than current TDK batteries. And maybe they should think twice before they say that, because I actually did the math and it looks like it's about 2.5 times more dense than the state-of-the-art lithium-ion batteries. So, by the way, it's nowhere near gasoline, but when you consider that electric cars are already viable, and at the current state-of-the-art lithium-ion batteries, 2.5 times more dense means they're going to be 2.5 times lighter. So let's say 2 times lighter, cutting your weight in your energy storage weight in half. If you leave the storage weight the same, you just doubled your range. So pretty amazing. I'm kind of pumped about that, except there's one minor problem with TDK's invention. It's ceramic, and according to them, it is reasonably fragile. It's not really great for rough service. So a lot of people got excited about this, and they didn't read that part. But yeah, but that doesn't mean that this isn't an amazing discovery, because whatever mechanism they figured out to manufacture battery material at more than double the current energy density of batteries can be applied maybe to a more durable ceramic or a non-ceramic entirely, although it's probably going to be ceramic, to be honest. From what I've seen, that's where most of the research is happening anyway. But yeah, so I think this is going to, even if this isn't the one, this will work great for small devices where there's some padding around the battery. And there's going to be adjacent discoveries. So we have really great batteries coming as early as 2025. That's when they're going to release the prototypes, and production is going to be as early as 2026. Let's hope those aren't Tesla numbers. We love you, Tesla, but you kind of, you don't always do things right away. Ars Technica, if you want to learn more, and they have a press release. A lot of people are just parroting the press release. Don't read press releases without thinking, at least. Anyway, on to science. And it is computer science. I could have easily put this in tech, but I'm going to give the credit where credit is due. Apparently, there's an organization that has applied the Turing test to a group of about 500 people. And for the first time, we have a chance or better than chance result for the Turing test, and it was ChatGPT-4. So very interesting for that open source AI chatbot, because now we have Turing capable open source chatbots. If that information is to be trusted, I have not played with that chatbot, the other chatbot, at all. But yeah, 54% of the people thought that the AI was human, right? More than half. So that is, and if you think about it, a lot of people are like, well, why wasn't it 80%? Nobody likes to look stupid. So people, when you get people to the point where they're guessing and they're getting roughly 50-50 results, in this case, understandably erring on the upside of 50-50, that's as good as it's ever going to get. Because if people think there's a reasonable chance they're going to get it wrong, they're just going to randomly guess, right? So that's why a 54% on the Turing test is good enough to be complete. So, wow. Really amazing. We've covered some of the Turing standards before here on this show. I'm really pumped about it. Livescience.com if you want to learn more. All right, so that is it for today's Dystopia Report. There were a couple of stories, really awesome, interesting stories, but for whatever reason, I couldn't verify some claims in them. I'll try to bring some of them forward next week if you're one of the people who submitted a story that didn't get included. There are a couple more stories I'm considering, but I just was pressed for time. Thank you so much for tuning in. That's it for Dystopia Report. That's it for the show. Again, please watch this week for my 10-minute Civ Tech talk on AI and the cloud and some of the social effects of copyright. I look forward to seeing you guys there. Thank you so much for tuning in. Choose wisely. Choose to share. Good night, everyone.